Hello, this is Alex. Welcome to my YouTube channel. This is a video review and comparison of the Suzuki DR200SE and the Yamaha XT225. My friend Dan, Wild NV on YouTube, has a 97 Suzuki DR200SE, and I have a 2001 Yamaha XT225. So why not have some fun and see how they compare to each other? The DR and XT are small dual sports that compete for the niche of wife or slow old man bike. That's because not everyone wants a 60 horsepower KTM with a 37-inch seat height. A small dual sport like these is more than enough to get outside the city and explore trails and see some nature. They're also ideal for a beginner or a shorter rider. Let's talk about the specs. Both bikes are air-cooled, single-cylinder 4 strokes. They have electric start only and 2-valve cylinder heads. Both bikes have disc brake with a 21-inch tire in the front and a drum brake and 18-inch tire in the rear. The Suzuki DR200SE was made from 96 to 2013 when it was replaced by the DR200S, which is basically the same bike, so it's still being made. The DR200 makes just 13 horsepower, and it has 199 cc's, and the DR200 engine is nearly identical to the DR125 dirt bike engine, and it only makes 1 more horsepower with the additional 75 cc's. It has a wide ratio 5-speed transmission. The difference between first gear and fifth gear is 328%, and that's important because having a wide ratio transmission in a dual sport is something that's needed because you're going on technical single track trails real slow and also on the highways. The suspension travel of the DR200 is 8.1 inches front and rear, and it's got 10.2 inches of ground clearance. The seat height of the DR is 32 inches, and the claimed dry weight is 249 pounds. It has a 3.4 gallon fuel tank, which is pretty huge considering you're going to be getting about 75 miles per gallon on these bikes. And the MSRP in 2007 was $3,949. The Yamaha XT225 was made from 96 to 2007. It has an off-road only twin, which is the TTR 225, which you would expect to be lighter, but it's actually slightly heavier than the XT because it has steel wheels versus the XT's aluminum wheels. The XT has a 223cc engine, which is estimated at 17 to 20 horsepower. Yamaha doesn't rate it, but that would make it 50% more powerful than the DR200, which is pretty significant. It also has a wide ratio transmission. It has a 6-speed, and it has a 390% difference between first gear and 6th gear, which is 19% wider ratio than the DR, and also the widest ratio transmission of any dual sport that I know of. Its suspension travel is 8.9 inches in the front, but it's only 5.7 inches in the rear, which is 2.5 inches less suspension travel in the rear than the DR. The seat height is 32 inches, same as the DR. The claimed dry weight of the XT is 238 pounds, which is 11 pounds lighter than the DR, pretty significant. The XT fuel tank only holds 2.3 gallons, about a third less capacity than the DR. The MSRP of the XT in 2007 is $4,200, which is $250 more than the DR. So motorcycle manufacturers deliver most motorcycles from the factory with very poor carburetor jetting. I think it's to meet some kind of EPA regulation. I don't know, but the XT225 is worse than most. So I richened up the idle circuit and shimmed the carb needle up slightly, which really helped the throttle response, but it still starts hard when cold, so I plan to go up a size on the Pilot Jet. So how do they ride? Dan and I are experienced riders and tall enough for big bikes, but we always have a great time on the tiny dual sports. On my KTM 520, you can go up practically any hill in practically any gear, and it's not a challenge. With these bikes, you have to plan it out. You have to downshift at the crucial moment, keep momentum through slippery parts, and hold wide open throttle for long periods. It really is a ton of fun to ride a slow bike at its limit. The DR200 feels wider and has a larger, more comfortable seat. And the handling of the DR200 has an edge over the XT. The suspension soaks up the bumps better, probably due to the extra 2.5 inches of rear travel. But our test DR has terrible brakes, and we think that's due to probably oil fouling on the front brake pads. But the DR does have a single piston front caliper, and the XT has a dual piston. The DR's first gear wasn't low enough for the amount of power it makes, and it couldn't make it all the way up the test track. The test single track we were riding with Dan on the bike, but it was able to do it with me riding as I'm lighter than he is. The throttle response of the DR is okay, but not really much changes between half and full throttle. Onto the Yamaha XT225. The Yamaha feels much more torquey throughout the rev range. First gear also feels lower than the DR's. It was able to easily pull down at the steep single track in first gear. But there is a pretty huge gap between first and second gear on the XT. So much that you often try to pull second gear on a hill, and then it lugs way down and you have to bring it back to first because it just can't pull the gap. It's too big of a gap between first and second. And I guess that's what you get when you have the widest ratio transmission of any dual sport. The XT handles fine, but you do feel the bumps in the seat more pronounced than on the DR. Next, we did a drag race between the two bikes on the street, and the DR got destroyed by the XT. We tried switching bikes, and it was the same result. The DR really is a lot slower than the XT, and it's not even close. The XT we tested has over 12,000 miles on it. The DR we tested has under 3,000 miles on it. The DR was bought used, and judging by the marks we saw on the top-end hardware, it has had the top end off at some point. It also smokes a little bit. We don't know if this is due to poor maintenance or abuse by the previous owner, or if the DR200 has issues with longevity. I did see some YouTube videos of blown-up DR200 motors, and no videos about blown-up XT225 motors. But I don't have enough data to make a conclusion on that yet. We tested the 200 dual sports and compared specs and performance. From our test, the XT225 comes out the clear winner, although the DR200 is better in some respects. We had fun on both bikes, so don't think we hate the DR200. We had fun making the video and testing the tiny dual sports. Thanks for watching.